It's not new, but I restarted my OBS and maybe it'll work better now. Maybe you didn't see anything different anyway, but it completely got hogged up in my end. Okay, so I broke everything in my code. It doesn't work at all now. So here's what the trace says. It reads 20. Here's the conAC. It gets back. It sends a subscribe, but it doesn't handle. Is the sound gone? No, the sound shouldn't be gone. I can at least see. Maybe I'm more silent than I'm used to be. I think my audio. It is. Okay, maybe it is. Maybe I should just bump up my volume a little bit. I don't know how if there's any difference. Okay, but yeah, you just have to. You don't need to hear me very much anyway. I'm just sort of right now rambling around anyway. So yeah, I broke the since. I think it was the coffee break that broke everything. You know, dangerous stuff. I think I need to fix. I sent this. That's the subscribe, right? And I wanna exactly the dangerous stuff. I sent it as a subscribe. I should get it published. Oh, wrong test case. 1190. I sent the subscribe. That's fine, and I should get a sub-ACK back, and that is what's broken. So I need to make sure that the sub-ACK is handled correctly. I can just verify, but of course it won't be correct if we when I sub-ACK. That's 90 and sub-ACK length is 4. Let's see how I do it in the server. Sub-ACK. I type very badly. Sub-ACK. Remaining length is 3. So I don't need to check the remaining length. I should check just those. Sub-ACK length is then 3 bytes. Since I don't read the first part. And now we can see sort of the coffee cup in both cameras. First here, coffee cup next to the keyboard, zipping coffee cup. Very fun trick. I have to enjoy the little gems here when I broke all my code. So, okay, so what happens now? This will of course still be broken, but remaining length. Remaining length. that? Yep. Yeah, that's wrong now. So remaining length is already decoded. I have variables with and without the underscore called remaining length, so it's annoying. I'm not sure I should do it like that, so trace 1190 receives data 9003 when in state 3 and then 90 state 5. For some reason I often end up doing this to make it easier for me to look at which state is which when I output them as numbers. So when I said 3, that's sub act, and then 5 sub wait for subscriber response. And in the server log, do the sub act. Something is wrong with this sub act handling. So set a breakpoint at MQTT.c412. I'm gonna run that. I'm gonna do this so that you can see the code flow. The packet is 20 hex. 20. Was it like that? Didn't you write it like that? Didn't do that? 20 hex is the CONAC. Really? Sub-ACK. Something is weird. And another thing I always end up doing when I write a state machine is write a debug function that outputs the actual state changes. So I have that in pretty much all curl is full of state machines, and I have state machines everywhere. So I will help myself and the future me by doing such a function now. It'll be a bit of a... So where do I use state first? Static void MQ state enum MQTT state. Wrong. Okay, so I will also do this state. It's in the MQTT variable, which is part of the con. Struct. So I'm going to do call it the only way to change state, because I want to only change state using this function. So that I can make sure that I get all state changes done the same way and logged the same way. So in this, for example, this would then use MQ state con like that. And in this function, I would do info f con data state from the previous state. And this is for debugging, so this will be I'll do this in debug builds, and we'll do the static const char state names. And here's the annoying part with this, that I will now use strings in the same order as the enums in this header, so they will get out of sync when I change them. Something like that. State names. State names first show the existing state. No, show the new state first, then from the existing state. And then make sure that the state change is done. Yep, wrong MQTT state. Okay, that worked. So I just need to make sure that all instances of doing this MQ state like this. state equals. So, do we want to have it done Emacs style? Sure we do. I'm recording a macro. So that I can do this. Seems to work even. Next state is still like that.
What is this song? Like
Nice macro. That's the only assign we do. Yes. I actually have that already, but I'm I'm so used to do it. So using caps lock for it is I really can't get used to it. And wait a minute. Yeah, that already is already there, but I can never remember to do it. So it's there to. It's mostly there. I mostly have caps lock as control to save me from caps lock, because caps lock does nothing good for anyone. So okay, if I run this, oops, rerun my test. Now I want to see how the state changes look in the reload. I also have reload file from disk as a shortcut in Emacs, so that's what you see what I do there. It's a custom key combo. So now I can see here where it changes states here to this state from that state. That's excellent. So I got this sub ACK get, and then change to sub remain.
what is this song called?
Well, that's an interesting way to do it, but I would be scared to do that with a function with just a single key. So yeah, and with my typo frequency, I would press that button far too often. It would be really scary and just flicker all my screens, everything. No, I'm pretty good with this, and it's just that I'm very used to using the control back in my lower left corner, sort of like for Control X, which is very common in Emacs land, right? So Control X is my tilted thumb, and then my other fingers here. So I actually keylogged my keyboard use for almost 2 years. So I know that the keys I use the most are the ones over here, and they're all the ones I basically maneuver in shells and with Emacs, you know, Control A, Control E, and S and D, and well, all of those, saving and moving around on the line, together with Control, of course. So yeah, I stopped the keylogging because it basically repeated itself. I'm a man of habit. I do the same thing but around 7 million keystrokes per year actually on this very keyboard. So it has survived, I think, 5 years now. So around 35 million keystrokes. No, I haven't. I you know, as I said, I'm a man of habits here, so I can't even learn how to use that as control when that is control. So doing a different layout, that would kill me. So I would be completely unproductive for a very long time. So I don't want that. So I'm pretty happy the way things are. Sub remain. So there's something wrong here. Sub. What is that? A. Is that a? Is that a? I don't know how it got there. I think I probably, yeah, wrote that. So state sub remain I don't use libraries for threads. I don't use threads preferably at all. But if I use threads, I use pthreads because I prefer to do my development on Linux. And luckily, most of curl things work exactly the same on all platforms. So usually I can get away with a happy life pretending everything is Linux. And then everything is good. And then suddenly something breaks on some other systems. And then sub remain. It changes to sub remain here. So it's a that's it's a weird state name because it's the publish, the remaining of it. I should update that state. Sub wait, subscribe response. That's not a sub wait, it's a pub wait, waiting for publish. Pub remain, waiting for the remainder of the publish. I think this will make it easier to talk about the actual actual names from the protocol. I don't ever really use large integers, or I stick to most of my development. I mean, 90-something% of everything I do are basically transfer protocol related internet protocol stuff, and they don't use large numbers. They use at the most 64-bit numbers, but usually they stay on 31-bit. So I don't have to deal with large numbers very often, or I would say very rarely. So I wouldn't even know what libraries to use or prefer or anything. Okay, now I changed the names, and now I need to change them in the strings as well. And then if we rerun it, we will just see the failures again, but now we will see with updated state names. It is switches to pub wait, and it's in the pub wait, it'll fail. Receive data. So we get to sub-ACK, and sub-ACK is the 90 something. And it is in sub-ACK. Back to the debugger. If you think I'm being slow here and going with doing crappy progress, I think you're entirely correct. But never mind that now. Sub-ACK, and then I think it's supposed to be a sub-ACK. It says con-ACK. Something is weird. Weird. That's because I don't set next state anywhere. So I get the remaining length and it goes to the next, or it goes back to first. And next is always con-ACK, which is entirely wrong. What do I do? The next state should now be MQTT. So when we do a publish, we don't do anything. We just as well go back to first, but if we do a subscribe, we need to wait. I've complicated things a little bit too much here now, I think, because now I'm a little bit lost in how I remodel the state machine. So I think I'm going to keep on banging my head against this a little bit more and then see if I can come up with a better way to handle it. So now we go back to first, once we got the connection ACK. Then we go back to first here, and then we read the instruction again, the remaining length. Yeah, I guess that's the way to phrase it. So there are a lot of well, uh, it seems fairly popular with IoT devices and stuff like this these days. So internet connected things, so you can read and write to more tinier devices usually. So you can, and it's not a perfect match for curl because it's not really like a file transfer from a URL, but you can sort of make it up to be, you can pretend it is. So you publish or you subscribe data on a topic, and you can actually also subscribe to wildcard topics. So you can subscribe to a wildcard and just get a lot of data out of something somewhere. So I get the server, it sends 9003000100, and we read that properly. It's the pub ACK. No, that's a sub ACK. It's a sub ACK. E? It's a sub ACK. Well, right now I haven't implemented it correctly, so right now I don't even test that. Well, it's actually, I'm going about this in a little bit of a funny order. So I started out with the first patch that I got from in a PR. My brother wrote it, but he wrote it a year ago. So, and I figured that was basically the correct thing. I figured, because I thought he had tested it against some implementation. So basically, so I took that first client-side implementation and I wrote the test cases for that first client-side implementation. So I make sure that we could test that the client-side did it, so that it remained solid. And then I tested that client-side against there's a test server at mosquito.org, testmosquito.org. So I tried that client against that server and I noticed, ooh, it doesn't really work. So I had to adjust the client's code to make sure that it works against that test server. And then I updated my test cases so that make sure that I could verify the new behavior. And then I read the spec, of course, back and forth many times. And then, of course, and then I merged everything, and then people are reporting back to me what my most obvious mistakes so far in the MQTT protocol. So now, what I'm doing now, why I'm completely lost in this maze of fixes, is that I'm trying to update my protocol things in the client side to make sure that it actually handles the protocol state machine better according to the protocol. I think the spec there that I'm looking at, it's not very clear in exactly, I mean, it's very detailed on exactly how the messages are defined, but it's not very clear on exactly which message is supposed to come, like in which order they can, which packet that's allowed in which state, sort of, and so on. So that's why I'm right, but is it Yeah, it seems to be down. The test mosquito server. Yeah, but I'm actually working on the version 3 MQTT protocol version. Never mind. I'm sort of trying to not lose scope. I appreciate your questions and talks and everything because it distracts me from what I'm doing, but it also makes me slower to do what I'm trying to do. I'm still a bit lost. I'm still trying to fix up my state machine because it doesn't do the right thing. But so I'm getting the connection ACK there is correct, and then we're going back to first, which is correct, and then we're reading the control byte again. The remaining length byte is the number 3, and after that we go to we're expecting a subscription ACK, sub-ACK packets. Yeah, so this is part of my support in curl for the protocol MQTT, which is an experimental support. So you have to, if you want to play with this, you have to enable it in the build explicitly, and try it out against something. But as I've said, the protocol thing isn't exactly standard compliant yet, so it will fail in funny ways. But hopefully it'll be better going forward if I'm just not getting stuck all the time in all this. So I'm getting to this, switching to sub-ACK. It's expecting a sub-ACK now, and then we're getting 90. That is so I get the sub-ACK. I'm going to make sure that after we're done with the parsing of the remaining length, I'm going to zero the packet counter again, because that's what's messing everything up. I'm using the generic n packet counter for counting the number of bytes I have read in various states. So when I'm done in this state, I'm resetting it back to 0. Because it'll help me in the next state. Yes, now it's slightly better. Now it gets into sub-ACK, and it's into sub-ACK coming. And now I have to fix that. Sub-ACK coming. Let's see if it behaves. Zup. And then it goes back to pub. No, it doesn't. It shouldn't. That's the mistake. That's my mess up, right? So it's it should really do this. I need to come up with a better way to handle this. And then go back to first. But okay, let me do this. I'm going to take a short break and take a lunch. So I encourage you all to go and have a lunch, and I'll fire up the stream again at I'll go back to streaming at 1 my time. That's in 50 minutes. So I'm going to take a little break, have some food, maybe think a little extra, and then I'll be back. So until then, have an awesome lunch. See you.